At the approach of the finale of one of the most unique Premier League seasons of recent history, Wolves encouraged supporters to get in touch. After almost 5 years under the ownership of Fosun, the club's fan base were tasked with submitting questions to Chairman Jeff Shi and the senior management team at Wolves. I'm Johnny Phillips, and I was delighted to sit down with Jeff and his general management team of Matt Wilde, Scott Sellars, Russell Jones and Vinny Clark, the men making the decisions at this famous old club. Recorded in mid-May, before the season's conclusion and changes to the first team management structure, this is Ask Wolves. So the club has had 633 questions, many of them showing a lot of thought, many showing a lot of concern as well, but all hoping for a chance to speak to you either individually or as a group. So we might as well crack straight on. The main subject was obviously transfer funds. So Jeff, it feels natural to come to you. Many asking, will funding and resources be made available to Nuno?
The meaning is that the funding is ready, of course it's ready. And but if the question is about whether the owner will spend more money into the club, I think we have some kind of barriers to conquer because the financial play is there. Yeah. Especially after we lose so much revenue from ticketing office and from the stadium, whatever. So I think in the next season it will be tough for us to manipulate under the financial play rule. So I think we have to find a way to update or to upgrade the squad, but in the meantime to be careful about the financial things. Yeah.
How would you do that, Scott? I guess, does that involve selling to buy? What ways can you upgrade the squad?
Yeah, I think speaking to a lot of people in football, I think that it's going to be a different window. I think COVID has affected everybody. I think the words that we're going to talk about a lot is being creative. So maybe swaps, maybe loans, which we've done very well in the past, loans with obligations. So I think, yeah, it's certainly a window where everybody's trying to work hard to find solutions and as Jeff says, certainly try and support Nuno and help with the squad.
Yeah, do you feel, Jeff, that Nuno needs every bit of support he can get when it comes to this window in particular?
Yeah, it's about the club. I think it's not really only about the one person. I have to clarify that. I think we will have a talk after the season and to define the strategy for the summer, and but from the history, every summer we do something, right? So just the next summer will not be different from that. It's about how to review the last season and how to do better for the next season. But I do think we may need to enhance some positions in the squad. Yeah.
There was one interesting question from Tom Belida, and he asked if money was made available, does that come from Fosun and then involve debt added onto the club, or is it differently? Is it where you generate it as a club?
I think it's public information. We have some debt from some banks, and also it's very common for every club in the Premier League. And our debt level is normal. And the funding from Fosun, I think it's kind of debt without interest. So it's equally to some kind of investment into the club. So I don't think too much about that. I think it's more about ourselves. For the club itself, can we sustain, can we make a very healthy financial running and also prepare or reserve the money for the future? It's very important. I don't want to have a club, always thinking about the next day, what will happen. But the good thing is we have gone through the difficult period for the last 18 months, to be fair. Now we are at a good position and we have no any financial crisis, and also we have the base to prepare for the next season. So to our fans, I think they don't need to worry about that. We will do everything to enhance ourselves.
The transfer strategy obviously concerns fans, and they all have very strong opinions on what players should be coming in and what players shouldn't be coming in. Will Jones, Sam Marshall and a few others talk about the youth prospects that Wolves have been signing and then the here and now and what's needed then. Scott, in terms of that, where do you stand on whether or not the club should be bringing in younger players, or they need to have those sort of oven-ready Premier League players?
I think all squads should be balanced if you can. You know, I think if you have a squad of 18-year-olds, you're going to have problems, but at the same time, You know, if you look at some of the young players we've bought, and I always say, well, where they're going to be in 2 or 3, you know, 18-year-old Fabio scoring goals in the Premier League, where's he going to be at 21? You know, how valuable is he going to be in the future of the club? So it's always about getting a balance. I think if you sign lots of 32-year-olds who, you know, who we can't sell on, or they're coming to the end of their careers, then I think that's a bad strategy. So I certainly think it would be about a balance. We certainly feel that, as Jeff said, that we need to improve the squad, but also the first 11, and we'll be trying the best to find the best solution. And if he's the best player and he's 20 years old, then we'll do that. If we feel he's 28-year-old and we need him into the squad, then we'll certainly look at that. But I think as a football club, we're always trying to invest in players with futures, but also we have to be mindful of getting the right balance.
Yeah, but sorry, I have to add, for a player and what he is now, it's not equal to what he is to be for the future. So even for a player, he scored 20 goals in a season, doesn't mean he can score again 20 goals for next season. So it's always about the future. When we buy a player, we think about the future. So there are a lot of failure cases in the past in the Premier League. We spend a lot for a player, 30 million, 40 million for a player, scoring 20 goals in some other countries, but never work here. So it doesn't mean when you buy a famous player or a name you know, it does mean success. No, I don't think so. I think it's more about no matter where he is or how old he is, it's about the potential, and that's based on our job from the scouts to value the player, to see the potential. And so we don't buy a player only for the history record and analysis. So that's the reason. So young players, older players, it doesn't matter so much. It's about whether we can have a balance and whether all the players come here can be a better player for the future.
I think
So I think we've got a good blend of players, a good balance in, you know, old and young. We've got, you know, the youngsters, Fabio, Key, Morgan, you know, Max when he came in he was only 21. We've got the older ones, you know, we've got Connor, we've got, you know, Raul, Willie, Joao. You know, so I think we've had it, and I think we've always had that from when Nuno was here. So I think it worked. I think it works really well.
And Ruben and Diogo and people like this were players who came in as very young players, not seasoned professionals, who probably a lot of people hadn't heard of. But you know, look at what they've done for the football club, and I think it will always be a strategy of looking at young talent.
I think one area fans are concerned in when it comes to young talent, and Jeff made very fair points there, but can young players get you into the top 6, the top 4, which is what fans and the club, I guess, is ultimately striving for? David Cecil, Lee Jevons, David Fraser, lots of people here just have a fear about potential, saying, is it too much for them to shoulder in terms of getting the results here and now? Where do you stand on that?
Again, I think it comes to balance. I think if we, you know, look at what the club's bought in João and Rui and people like this that are seasoned professionals that have certainly added to the football club, and where the club are now, there's no doubt that their experience has certainly helped some of the young players. So again, I understand that, but also it comes about getting the balance right, and also with more experienced players, they're a lot more expensive, and there's not always a sell on, and they're not always a long-term future. So certainly getting the right balance, I think, is something that we talk about a lot.
And and also if you are top talent, it's not really important about the age. So if you can say like Pedro Neto or Fabio Silva, I think they can get into any team in the Premier League. So it's not really about the age. So the age is important, but sometimes your peak will happen at an early age when you are very young. So I'm not so concerned about it. It's more important not to think too much about the age. It's about how they perform on the pitch is very important. Yeah.
Matt, Simon Sprague has got a question that maybe you might be able to handle. He wants transfer business to be done early, but it's going to be a strange summer, I think. My inclination is it might not be done early. Where do you stand on this?
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about this a lot with Jeff, but I think it's going to be really difficult because of the Euros, and we were just talking about this. You know, we've got players who, you know, could go through to 11th of July, going to need a holiday. You know, so people realistically might not be back with their clubs until the end of July. So I really don't think a lot's going to be happening until August. You know, the transfer window shuts at the end of August this year, so I think it's going to go right. I think it could go right to the wire. Hopefully not with us in general. We do normally like to get our squad in order. I think, you know, we've always tried to get the squad in order before the season starts, but I think unfortunately the Euros will prevail in that. I think
it's
it will
not
be
only
tough.
about us. You know, at the end it's about the agency, the players, the selling club, the buying club. So generally, by my experience for the last 5 years, and people tend to do deal in the last minute. I don't know why, but I cannot control it. For me, personally, I want to do deal as early as possible, but sometimes I cannot control that. So yeah, in general, always 1 or 2 deals will happen only in the last minute. So.
Do you think is that anything to do with maybe other clubs and selling clubs thinking Wolves are someone they can keep hanging on for a little bit longer because it's a club that has invested?
No, I think it's because sometimes for the players, for the agents, they have multiple choices, and so they have to wait, and sometimes the 2 clubs are negotiating about the price and whatever. So until the last minute, of course, we have always the time to talk. So only when the final time comes, then we have to sign the deal. So that's very normal. Just you don't want to have a worse deal. Then you always want the best deal, right? So you have to wait. Yeah.
The squad size is an issue with a lot of fans. Richard Perkins, Richard Evans, and you know, 10s more. Scott, perhaps this is best directed towards you. It looks, with injuries, as if that squad size came back to haunt Nuno a bit this season. Where do you stand on that, and you think it will change?
I think it's certainly worked well in terms of giving young players opportunity to work with the first team, especially from my previous role as academy manager. It was a great opportunity for young players. I certainly think the injury situation, and I think having the short break between the 2 seasons has put a massive pressure on the players, and I think that's been a major part of the injuries. But yeah, I think it's certainly that if we don't reflect on and look at and try and solve that. But again, I don't think it'll be going to a squad of 28 players, because I don't think that works either. But certainly we'll look at extending the squad and making it stronger to cope with injuries. We always talk about how many players we want for certain positions, and certainly that will carry on.
Why do you think a really big squad doesn't work? It does with some clubs.
Yeah, I think that it's our model, and I think every club's got their own way of working. It was certainly the top clubs will generally use 15, 16 players. I think obviously this season's been different because of so many games in such a short spell. But I think over the 3-year period that we've been in the Premier League, I don't think anybody could say that model has not worked. This season it's been difficult. But I don't think we want to rip it up because one season's been difficult. How can you, Raul's injury is a freak. It's not something that can be always controlled. So, but it's certainly something we'll discuss, and we'll look, I think, at certainly extending it, but not extending it to massive numbers of players.
I think that's been one of our advantages, that players are coming here, they get opportunity because I've got a small squad. So I think that's been one of the benefits, for players coming in. Although that said, it has been very, very tough with injuries, especially we've had 2-3 seasons before that where the injury rate has been really, really low. So having another challenge, has been hard.
Sorry, some of the young players' development in that opportunity as well.
Yeah.
I think is what Matt's saying as well.
Yeah.
Is really key.
Yeah, also it's a chance to give the young players, especially from our academy, a better chance to play. So sometimes when we have many injuries, it's a better thing, of course, but it's also good for the young players to step up. So it's about whether they can step up immediately or we have to wait. So if we have a strong academy and a strong young talent squad, we have no problem. Yeah.
The people responsible for bringing players here came up in conversation with a lot of the fans, and the reliance on George Mendes, the reliance was the word used. Do you think that the club is over-reliant, Jeff?
No, we don't rely on any agencies. Sorry, I have to clarify it. We work with all the agencies. But first of all, we don't work only with George. So we work with many different agencies. And the why maybe the people, the fans perceive maybe there are more players in the squad from guest field. What I can say, just sometimes all the agencies are providing service to the club. So it's our value or our favor to pick the right guy to help us. The right guy means he or they can provide first-class service to us. So when you have a good agent and a not so good agent, who will pick, right? So to protect the club, to help us, to have a fair deal, the terms is easy to negotiate with, and always providing us good choices, who will you pick? Of course, you will pick the best one. When you have already had some kind of experience for first class seats, you will not go back to economic things. So that's the truth. So, but we will try, because Gatwick cannot cover every market. So maybe in Portugal they're strong, but we will also have many more agencies to work with us, because in the world, especially after Brexit, I think we have more chance to explore the market in South America, in Asia, whatever. So I think we need more agency to work with us. But in nature, who can provide the best service to us, we will choose to work with them. So it's not about the reliance to anyone. Even George is my good friend, but I want to say that. Yeah.
He's your good friend, but he often charges high prices, and some fans have said, are the fees excessive?
Matt, you can say something about this.
I think first and foremost, that let's not forget that we brought some top talent in for some very competitive transfer fees. I personally think that we've made some real value in the players that we brought in: Jota, Neves, Neto. We've bought them relatively for low transfer fees. And the asset. Well, the proof's in the pudding with Diogo. He's gone to Liverpool. For we've probably made 30 million profit. Ruben's value's gone up. Neto's has gone up. Raul Jimenez now. So why would we not continue to have a relationship with them? I think that the evidence is there that. I don't think they're charging any more fees than what's out there in the market.
No,
anyway.
I can say for the fee, for the whatever. It's fair, right?
Yeah,
so it's
fair.
fair market,
It's an interesting point you made about the profit that Diogo Jota will eventually realise. Because Michael Van has asked, is it becoming more like a business, Wolves, and are we losing sight of where you want the actual team to be on the pitch?
I think it's not about the business. It's about for every season, even from the head coach, we needed to do some refreshment. Just because if you have the squad, the 20 players, 25 players, always the 25 players, it doesn't work, because every season is a new challenge. You always need some new blood to come in, and the Premier League is very challenging and changing very fast. With the same identity, same squad, you cannot handle every season. You can see the result. Like Sheffield United, you can see that, and maybe with the same squad, but the new season will be so different to them. And to us, it's the same. So even from sporting and tactical view, we need some change for every season. And also, for a player, sometimes they needed to change because, for example, you have been in a city for 3 or 4 or 5 years, and sometimes you need a change to not only for the money or for the new club. It's about some changing to charge yourself again. So for example, if I don't think Diogo, if he stays here, he can perform at the same level as he is doing in Liverpool, because it's a new environment with different teammates, and so. That's the reason why, which can encourage him or spur him to do better. So even for the players, to his own benefit, or even he can be a better player, sometimes we have to change. And also it's about 2 clubs, and if we can sell a player, get some profit in, then we can use the money to buy some other positions we need more. It's a good deal. So for the deal of Diogo Jota, I think it's a best deal. I think even the best deal in the 5 years after I came here, because it's benefiting all the 3 parties: the player, the buying club, the selling club. Not always, Sometimes when a club buys a player, then they think, oh, he's not so good or whatever. So it's not, even for a selling side, I don't want that to happen, because I hope to maintain a good relationship. And when we sell a player, the player is from Wolves, and we have done good things to him. Then he can do even better, or at least at the same level there. So it's a good thing to us. So if you are using the example of Diogo Jota, I think it's a perfect deal to us. I'm very happy about this. Yeah.
Scott, as a player, you won promotion to the Premier League and enjoyed a successful career there. There's a lot of questions asking why aren't Wolves looking towards the EFL in general and more home markets. Can you answer that?
Well, I don't think that we're not. I think we've looked at some of the successes. I think you have to be straightforward that a lot of our players are Championship players Conor Cody, Ruben Neves, they all played in the Championship for Wolves, so we understand what a strong league it is. The difference is sometimes the cost and the transfer fees of, you know, as we've seen with Ollie Watkins and people like that, and the talk about Tony now obviously at Brentford, the transfer fees are very high, and sometimes is it the best value? But it's certainly a market that we think's very appealing, and also a good gauge for players that could easily come into the Premier League. So it's something we do look at.
Yeah, also, Scott, you mentioned this morning that like Willy Bolly, Ruben Neves, Diogo, they were all from Championship, right? So
yeah.
we were from Championship, so we know a lot about the market there. The only thing, as Scott said, is about to pick the right deal. Yeah, the right deal means commercially, financially, sporting-wise, and it should be right. Yeah.
I've got a technical question which Matt and Scott might be able to share. The Director of Football role, there isn't a Director of Football title as such, and we've been asked if, you know, Adam Arnold, Chris Noon, Luke Scale are all saying, "Oh, Wolves going to appoint a Director of Football." Can you maybe explain your roles and where they fit into that?
Johnny, but let me say first. Okay.
Go on.
Yeah, the title is a title, but to me, Scott is either technical director, sport director, director of football. It's the same to me. So he is doing the job for the 3 titles anyway. Okay.
Are you providing value for money here?
4 or 5 jobs. I think it's a terminology, isn't it? I think there's still, in a lot of people don't understand quite what director, football, sporting director, technical director. I think ultimately I'm doing the role that Kevin was doing with a different title. You know, so I think it's a terminology thing rather than anything any different from that.
And Matt, does your role slightly overlap as well?
I think it overlaps them all. I think I'm here to, you know, to support Scott, to support Jeff, and to support Nuno and support the players. So, you know, in terms of, from all aspects of from football administration, football operations, signing players, you know, having players settling in, you know, to helping running the services off the pitch here at the training ground. So it's, you know, it's a full-on job, but you know, I think having the 2 of us here with Jeff, and I think it really works. So
I think hopefully it's putting people who've got specific roles and expertise in or knowledge in certain roles. You know, my knowledge is technical, my knowledge is football, my experience is football. Matt's fantastic support to me in what he does as well. So I think I'd like to think as general managers we work very well together, and that's the best way for us as a football club.
I mean, Scott's been in it an awful long time. You know, I've known nothing else. I came into it when I left university 20 years ago. So, you know, I've worked with Barry Fry for 2.5 years. So I've seen everything there is to see in terms of, you know, transfer negotiations. So, you know, I think between us we've had a lot of experience and a lot of hands-on experience. So it's been invaluable.
We're talking of deal negotiations. Matty's asked, is there any chance of a longer deal for Ruben Neves?
Yeah, I need to clear this up because Max was talking to me, our head of media, about this. So I think there's some in the press or our fans are thinking he's only signed up till 2023, but in fact he is on contract till 2024.
Okay.
So, you know, he's still got another 3 years. So fans don't need to worry that you know, he's going to be going anywhere, or he's going to be out of contract anytime soon. So yeah, he's still got another 3 years on his contract.
And when Raul Jimenez got injured, it thrust Fabinho Silva into the spotlight, and many felt he wasn't ready, and then immediately they looked at the price tag as we touched on earlier. Where do you think that signing stands? You know, do you feel it stands the test?
Scotty, you can say something after me, but I want to say Fabio, at the beginning, I thought he is the top player at his age in the world. Now I think it even proves that, because not so many 18 years old played in the Premier League, score 4 goals, 5 goals, and it's not so much, sorry. And maybe you can hear more names around the world, okay, some wonder kid here and there, but no one is playing the same as Fabio doing now in the league, in the toughest league in the world. You can do something maybe in Germany, in Portugal, but it's different from the Premier League. So I still keep my position. I just say he is maybe at least top 3 or top 1 best wonder kid in the world at the age.
Really?
Yeah, true. So, and of course, everyone has a subjective view about a player, and maybe someone says, okay, he's not so strong, he's not so fast, but when you look at football, and you can see a very, very smart player there, and also it's not easy to find a good striker. A striker normally takes time to become a good striker, but at 18 years old to be so good, it's amazing. So I like him the most. And after he came here, and also it's more interesting because before that I didn't know much about his character, personality. Now I see him training very hard every day, always smiling, don't care too much about what the defense say. Then also always focusing on the training ground and doing something very, very good. So you can see the obvious growth and improvement from the last maybe 5 or 4 months. It's because he has a golden character and a personality, and it's very important. So that is my view. I make the decision to buy the boy is truly because I believe in him and to be one of the best players, not only in Wolves, maybe in the Premier League in the future. But Scott, you can say something.
Yeah, I think an 18-year-old boy to come from Portugal, he had no pre-season with the football club. There's an adaptation period that I've seen in my years in football. I remember seeing David Silva at City in his first season, find it difficult. So never mind David Silva, who's, for me, one of the best Premier League players ever. I think there's an adaptation period. I totally agree with Jeff. I think his character's outstanding. I think he's had a difficult time and how he's come through it. Now you can see the potential in him as a footballer. You can see why people talked about him so much as a young player. And I think he's come through it really well. There's no doubt it was a season that we thought he would be learning off Raul, getting parts of the season, really learning about the Premier League. And I think that obviously got thrust into it a lot quicker. But I think now you're really starting to see him settle into the football. The boy can score goals and can finish. And I think he's really clever, and I watch him quite regularly on training. His finishing quality, I think, is very high. And I think he's come to the whole season really well, and we're really hoping and looking for a positive season next year as well.
It's a lot of pressure on his shoulders, isn't it? The transfer fee that everyone's talking about, and then losing Raul so early on at the start of the season that it's just sort of thrown into the spotlight. But I think he's coped really well there. I think he's done really well.
But Johnny, there's something I want to say to our fans. When a new player comes, try to welcome him more, right? So sometimes you never know what will happen. Yeah. You cannot predict.
Do you think they're quick to make judgments in some areas?
Yeah, sometimes I feel if they don't know the name, they feel doubtful or negative. But sometimes, if you look at the track record from the club about transfers in the last 5 years, it's pretty good. I think maybe one of the best in the Premier League. Yeah. So sometimes it's about trusting the player, also about trusting us. Sometimes we don't do wrong things very often. Yeah.
Well, one last question on new players. Yeah. Ewan Morgan has asked, could you do a job at left back, Jeff?
Sorry, I'm right-footed.
There's no point dwelling on sold players too much, but Matt Doherty and Diogo Jota have come up a lot. What was the logic for parting with them both?
Well, I think Jota we already spoke about. The transfer fee. It was just sort of an opportunity, too good to turn down. Really, I think any Wolves fan, if ever thought that we could have sold a player for that amount of money, I think it'd be too good to be true. So I think that's the reason behind him. Yeah. I mean, Matt Doherty.
So why
sell him? I mean, some would say he'd reached the absolute peak of his performance levels, and maybe that's borne out this season. Would you go along with that?
I do think Matt is a kind of player and suiting a style. I think at that time, I think the team or the head coach, they want to change a little bit style. And so for a certain team, Matt can do a very good job. But if we want to change, maybe to a more possession-based teams, whatever, I think we need to maybe have a different profile of player. So that's one of the reasons. And also, I do believe Matt himself, he wants to move because he has been here for 10 years, right? So I think it's a right moment and to move to a new club to challenge himself again. So it's a good deal. I think for commercial sense, we think that the deal is good, and for the player, he can get to a new club, and also for the future, if we want to change our style of football, and maybe we need to do some change. So
we can't keep the same squad each season. We've got to freshen it up. So there's always going to be changes. So.
Talking of freshen it up, Matt, is FFP going to be an issue now going forward? A lot of fans have sort of identified that as a problem area.
Yeah, I mean, FFP for us sort of has two strands to it. So we've got the Premier League profit and sustainability rules that we have to stay within, and we're doing really well in the Premier League, but you know, the Premier League profit and sustainability is sort of calculated over 3 seasons. So you know, we've got 19-20, 18-19 and 17-18. 17-18 we were in the Championship. You know, I think we lost 55 million that season. So, you know, you can only have there's a certain cumulative amount of losses that you can have. So we have to make sure that we're falling within that. You've then got the other side of it with UEFA. You know, it was great that we got to the Europa League in the first season, but that in effect created other challenges because we're now part of UEFA's financial fair play rules, and because we got in the first season, we had 2 previous seasons of really high losses, which means that we were never going to meet their break-even requirement, and you then have to enter into settlement agreements with UEFA. You know, provide future financial information. You know, set out your stall for the next couple of seasons. So we're working within these sort of parameters to ensure that we fall within their break-even requirement. You know, further down the line, so that we don't have to pay any fines. So, you know, that it's a lot more complicated than what people see. So
there is a history in the game of people paying fines and just getting on with it. Where would Wolves stand on that?
Yeah, I don't think we would.
No, I don't want to pay for
No.
Yeah. What about Brexit, Scott? It's going to have some sort of impact, isn't it, on future transfers and where the club look, I guess?
I think obviously from having both my heads on as a previously academy manager, that means that at the younger ages we can't sign anybody outside of England under 18, and we've used that market quite well in the past with some of the young players like Christian Marquez and Diogo and people like that. So we can't do that. From the older age groups, obviously the market opens a little bit more, but they've now got to fit the criteria of the points. So yeah, it's certainly, I think we did a study and I don't think we could have signed Pedro Neto. Yeah. So there's a lot of talent that we have signed before Brexit that's now going to be more difficult. So we have to really certainly spend a lot of time. It's not always just looking at the player and saying he's a really good player. Another point is, well, we have to go onto the sort of GB calculator and see if we can actually sign the boy. So it's certainly, again, made the market more difficult. And we've certainly got to look, but it does open up South America, as Jeff said before, Asia, Northern America. So again, we'll certainly be looking all over.
I'm sorry, I'm just going back to FFP.
Yeah.
It's always going to be a battle, but you know, I think one thing is for sure, that transfer fees are going to keep going up, player wages are going to keep going up, and intermediary fees are going to keep going up. You know, so we've got to look to grow the business, and we've got to be looking at increasing revenue. You know, that's if we want to be, you know, a big club, we've got to look, you know, not just focus purely on the football team and, you know, generating transfer fees. We've got to look at other avenues, and like we've said before, Scott said, be creative.
Yeah, and I think that's good. We're going to come on to a bit with that with Ross and Vinny later about the wider business.
No pressure.
Which will be quite interesting. Roger Clark's asked if there's any lessons that you may or may not have learned from this season. Is there anything in particular this season that's taught you anything? You know, for all three of you.
I think I can start. I think for injury prevention, maybe we can do better. So because we have a very good record in the last 3 seasons, from 17, 18 to now. So maybe we were too confident about what we have been doing, and but this season is reminding to us, okay, we could have done better, and we will learn from this and do better. So we are doing something on the pitch, so on something we are trying to upgrade, and so I hope for next season we can do something to have a better medical record.
Yeah, I think it's been a season like no other season, and I think that when you reflect on that, you know, being a player, so I think to play the number of games the boys have played with a lack of rest, I think is a recipe for disaster. I think if it was just us who had injuries, we would be really concerned. But injuries across the Premier League are up. So I think, yeah, certainly we're always trying to be progressive. We're always trying to look at different ways of improving pitches. We're looking at the medical side of it. We'll be looking at everything. But yeah, I think that's been the thing that I think would say has changed the most in the season is the number of injuries. Some of the injuries are nothing to do with pitchers like Raul, but you know, we've got to get on with it. And again, looking at the squad size would be something that we would look at, having looked at the injuries again. So, but certainly we'll be looking again, yeah.
Yeah, I think from my side, I think the COVID situation, you know, not having a break, having to work with so many protocols, I think for me, you know, working with the players, I think, and the staff, I think it's really took their toll on everyone. you know, and I think, you know, mental health is so prevalent at the minute, and you know, it's been on my mind that you know, you have a lot of players from overseas. You know, how are they coping with it? A lot of them haven't seen their families for a long time. You know, they're trying to get them over. They're being blocked because, you know, of quarantining and being on the bed list. So I think, you know, that's one area I've been focusing on for the last, you know, couple of months. You know, trying to facilitate or integrate a player care provision within the training ground, just to provide some day-to-day support for them. You know, are they okay? What do they need help with? What do their families need help with? Because I think it must have been really, really tough.
Yeah, and it's interesting that, because you know, supporters may only see what's going on the pitch, but behind closed doors, players have gone through a lot, haven't they?
Yeah,
like the rest of us, obviously, and like a lot of the supporters themselves. But naturally, it will take a toll.
Yeah, no, it will definitely. You know, Leander was having his family coming over for Christmas, and you know, all of a sudden, you know, we're in lockdown again, and they can't come, and Nuno's hardly seen his family all season. You know, it's really, really tough.
Let's finish with a few sort of quick fire ones. The loan policy, Scott, there's about over 20 players out on loan. Why are so many?
I think the loan policy is used for different reasons. So for some boys, it's to give them experience of playing, obviously, league football, which is vital in some of the players' development. Some players, if they're not required here, we need to get them out. And again, can we give them the opportunity to play? Because again, we talked about before, we don't want 28 players moping around because they're not playing. So give them the opportunity to play. And I think as we've seen some of the loans, they've been really successful. If you look at Rafa Mir's had 3 or 4 loans while being at the club. His last loan at the moment's been fantastic for the player. And they're still our players, and we want the best for them. We don't want them, we're not just washing our hands of them, we want them to develop. And ultimately, again, if we talk about creative, then, you know, Rafa may make the money, a lot of money for the football club in the future. So I think it's always going to be part of our policy of what we do with players, and it will always be looked at from different points of view, experience, development, and obviously trying to develop an asset as well.
And is the scouting side of it your domain as well? Who's in charge overall for scouting?
The head of scouting is Matt Hobbs, who's been at the club quite a few years. Obviously I work very closely with Matt. Scouting for all the scouts this year has been in front of a video screen, I'm afraid, and we've got some fantastic people who work really well to get all the analysis and the data together to provide profiles on all the players we're looking at and all the leagues all over the world. But yeah, I think for scouts who like to be out and about, it's been a really difficult year, but it's something that we've certainly had to do in-house and work very closely with. And we're really pleased with the work people have done in very difficult circumstances.
And James Smith asked, closer to home, the academy, what's your plan with that, and how do you generate a system where you can get the best local youngsters?
I think it's something we've been working on for a lot of years. I think that it doesn't happen overnight. You know, I've been in the academy system a lot of years. If I look at, you know, now in the West Midlands, I think we're really strong. We've got some really high quality players coming through, and hopefully I think, you know, all the best clubs should be built on foundations of the academy and young players through. You know, if we look at this year, Owen's breakthrough season, you know, Owen is American by birth, but he's been with us since he was 14 years old. So, you know, we'll always continue to do that. As I said before, we have the elite group that train with Nuno on a regular basis. A lot of the boys are under 18 at the moment, and the under 23s at the moment. Majority of them are under 18. The under 18s at the moment, we've got some 15-year-old boys in there. So yeah, we're really trying to continue to push that. It's something that Jeff's very passionate about, but I think Fosun are as well, and the football club, and we'll try to certainly develop that.
Matt, COVID, we touched on COVID just now when we talked about the players. I mean, you know, has it changed any targets in the short term? Has it made the club reassess anything they do, their vision?
I think it's been tough. I mean, it's been 2 seasons into one. The protocols that we're all under and continue to be under has been like nothing. I mean, it's been, don't get me wrong, we've been really appreciative to the government that we've been able to keep playing. I think it's been not only good for us but you know, for the public as well to watch football. But you know, what we've had to work under, you know, we were kicking off at, you know, all weird and wonderful times and days, and you know, that we're having to have different hotels that we'd ordinarily use. We're travelling on 2 buses, you know, at the training ground, you know, we're having to social distance apart from when we're on the pitch.
Right.
We can't all eat together, you know, where we'd normally do. At matches, we might not even be, the team might not even be in the same dressing room. You might have to have starting 11 in one, and you know, the subs.
What's the player reaction been to that when they're all hugging and celebrating a goal on the pitch, but then they have to come off it?
Yeah, that's it. And I think I'm like the COVID police, because you know, I'm constantly telling Connor that, you can't do that. And if you notice, we do the team huddle before we kick off. Well, you probably noticed for the last few games we've not been doing it, and that's because Premier League protocols, you have to social distance.
Yeah.
So it's been hard for everyone to work under. I think.
No one loves a goal celebration more than Connor.
No, he loves
he
it, doesn't he? Yeah. So, but even he's they've tried to tone it down, and the manager and the coaching team as well, because they love their huddles as well. So, but it's. I think we've all adapted. I think it's been a season like no other. I think if we do finish, I think we're 12th at the minute. I still personally think it's a good finishing position given everything that's gone on. So, we'll learn from it. We've now got a chance for a break, which a much needed break after the last 2 seasons. So, and I think we'll just regroup and reset and then go again.
Brilliant. A couple more. Clive Smith wants to know, Jeff, were there any conversations that you were involved in around the European Super League?
No, I heard that at the same time.
I called you, didn't I?
So
you called Jeff up, did you?
Yeah, we had an email from Richard Masters at the Premier League just saying that he was expecting an announcement that evening. And I think then you think, sort of panic setting a bit. I was saying to Jeff, have they... I'm sure there's going to be a press conference because, all these clubs are supposedly signing up to it. And then you start worrying, have they got a broadcast partner? This could have a really detrimental effect to, the competition that we're in. And for then, so we're sort of waiting for something to happen, and then just for this written statement to come out, it was bizarre.
Yeah, it did.
But we had no idea whatsoever.
So I had no idea, but I did talk with some friends about it after this happened. But I said to the friends, there's some friends in China, some friends in Europe, and I told them it's not going to happen in the UK because the people who is trying to initiate it don't know much about the UK market and the industry here. The UK football is so special.
Yeah, there was a feel of a sort of back of a fag packet organisation about it. Maybe you can't say that.
Yeah.
But, just to finish off, does Harry Mansell wants to know, just the negativity amongst fans that sometimes finds its way to the club, be it through forums, be it from the stands, whatever it may be, does it put you off at all? Does it make you...
Yeah, I think I of course I do hear from them, and I do want them to be happy, and so sometimes I feel not that good when they show me some negativities. But what I want to say is my major job. Yeah, I just now I did reply an email to one of them because every week I received several emails from the fans. I did try to reply to them, and for the email today I said. My major job is not to police the fans by words. It's hollow. It's no meaning because I can tell you we will do better, whatever, but it doesn't really make the future better. My major job is to do good things for the club by actions, not by words. So I don't want to come out to speak to you for every day, and it doesn't help. So you have to save my time to focus on the job inside the club. So then. On the other side, being negative is, of course, you can show your emotion, but football is all about the emotions, of course. But after my personal experiences, after one night's sleep, it's all gone, So then, because the future is always in your hands. I think to practice in the running of a club and negativity is no any use, because if you always regret about the past or whatever, it doesn't help. So only being positive is practical and is valuable to what we are doing in the club. So sometimes even I fear the negativity from the fans will impact the staff inside the structure. So I made a lot of efforts to talk to them, don't listen too much to the fans, focus on your job. And so I use Fabio as a good example. Some player or some staff, they have the strong mentality to shrug off that, then do your own job. That's the right mentality we want to have. But I do hope, sometimes I think maybe because Wolves have, in history, in the last maybe, more than me, right? Yeah. Johnny, 30, 50 years, and not so good at the right level. And I heard some fans are celebrating, it's the history record since the 70s, the longest period
That's right.
in the
It's the
Premier League.
longest period in the Premier League.
Yeah, I
It's
never thought
incredible,
about
really.
it. I never thought about it. I don't think it's something worth to celebrate on, you know, but it reflects maybe where the negativity would come from, because you are always worried, concerned that the history will happen again.
Yeah.
But I want to say to them, okay, now you have to trust us. The 5 years can tell you something. So in general, if you have 5 years good track record, you can do maybe better things in the next 5 years. People make difference, right? So it's just, I think that's important, yeah.
And John, if you take stock, 5 years, we got promoted, we qualified for Europe, we finished 7th again, we're going to probably finish 12th. We got to the FA Cup semi-final, we travelled all around Europe last year in the Europa League. You know, it's been amazing. There's so much to be positive about, and no doubt that there'll be a lot more to follow. You know, it's been incredible. For 7th, and if we get 12th, I think it's an amazing achievement.